Throughout history, there have been women who possessed an almost magnetic quality that drew both respect and desire from men around them. These weren't necessarily the most conventionally beautiful women, but they had something deeper, something that transcended mere physical appearance. They understood ancient beauty truths that modern women have largely forgotten, secrets that made them irresistible not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. By watching this video until the end, you will discover how to awaken these timeless feminine powers within yourself and transform not just how you look, but how you feel and how others perceive you. These ancient truths will help you command respect while igniting genuine desire, creating the kind of magnetic presence that men find impossible to resist. Remember, true beauty isn't just about looking good. It's about embodying a power that comes from within and radiates outward, touching every aspect of your life. If you're ready to unlock these secrets that have captivated men for thousands of years, let's begin this transformative journey together. 1. They understood the power of mysterious elegance. Ancient beauties knew that true allure comes not from revealing everything, but from the art of subtle suggestion. Unlike today's culture of overexposure, these women mastered the delicate balance between showing and concealing, understanding that mystery creates desire while vulgarity destroys it. They knew that when you leave something to the imagination, you become infinitely more fascinating than when you reveal everything at once. This principle applies not just to physical appearance, but to personality, conversation, and presence. A woman who speaks in measured tones, who doesn't reveal her entire life story in the first conversation, who maintains an air of gentle mystery, becomes someone men want to discover and understand. Modern women often make the mistake of thinking that being completely open and accessible makes them more attractive, but the opposite is true. When you maintain some mystery, you create space for others to project their desires and dreams onto you, making you more captivating than any obvious display ever could. The ancient art of mysterious elegance extends to how you carry yourself in social situations. These timeless beauties never tried to be the loudest person in the room or the center of attention through dramatic means. Instead, they cultivated a quiet confidence that drew people toward them naturally. They understood that true power whispers, it doesn't shout. When you speak softly, people lean in to listen. When you dress elegantly without being flashy, you command respect. When you smile mysteriously instead of laughing loudly at everything, you become someone worth knowing. This doesn't mean being cold or aloof, but rather being selectively warm and genuinely engaging when a moment calls for it. Men are naturally drawn to women who seem to have depth, who appear to have secrets worth discovering, who present themselves as complex beings rather than open books. The key is to be approachable while maintaining your mystique, warm while preserving your dignity, and engaging while keeping your private thoughts to yourself until trust is earned. 2. They master the art of graceful movement. Throughout history, the most captivating women understood that beauty is not just about features, but about how you move through space. Ancient cultures spent considerable time teaching women how to walk, sit, and gesture in ways that conveyed both strength and femininity. They knew that a woman who moves with grace commands attention without demanding it. That fluid movement speaks of inner confidence and self-respect. This wasn't about putting on airs or being artificial, but about developing a natural elegance that comes from being comfortable in your own body. When you move with purpose and grace, you communicate to others that you value yourself, and in turn, they will value you too. Modern women often underestimate the power of graceful movement, rushing through life without considering how their physical presence affects others. But when you slow down, stand tall, and move with intention, you naturally command more respect and attention. The practice of graceful movement begins with awareness of your posture and presence in any room you enter. Ancient beauties were taught to imagine an invisible string pulling them up from the crown of their heads, creating perfect alignment that made them appear taller, more confident, and more regal. They learned to walk as if they were floating slightly above the ground, with steps that were neither rushed nor dragging, but perfectly measured to their natural rhythm. Their hand gestures were purposeful and elegant, never fidgety or nervous, but expressive in a way that enhanced their words rather than distracting from them. When they sat, they did so with dignity, taking up their fair share of space without sprawling or shrinking. These physical practices weren't just about appearance. They were about embodying the confidence and self-respect that naturally attracts both admiration and desire. When you carry yourself like someone worthy of respect, others cannot help but treat you that way. 3. They cultivated inner radiance through spiritual practices. The most captivating women throughout history understood that true beauty radiates from within, and they actively cultivated this inner light through various spiritual and mindful practices. They knew that no amount of external beauty could compensate for inner emptiness, and conversely, that a woman who glowed with inner contentment and wisdom would be irresistible regardless of her physical features. These ancient beauties practiced daily rituals that connected them to something greater than themselves, whether through prayer, meditation, contemplation of nature, or service to others. They understood that when you are at peace with yourself and your place in the universe, that serenity shows in your face, your voice, your entire being. Men are naturally drawn to women who seem to have found some secret to contentment, who radiate a calm confidence that suggests they have something valuable to offer beyond just physical attraction. This inner radiance manifests in countless ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. When you regularly engage in spiritual practices, whether traditional religious observance, meditation, mindfulness, or simply quiet contemplation, your stress levels decrease, your sleep improves, and your overall health enhances. This internal well-being shows up externally as clearer skin, brighter eyes, more relaxed facial muscles, and a general glow that no cosmetic can replicate. Ancient women knew that taking time for daily spiritual practice wasn't selfish or unnecessary, but essential for maintaining the kind of magnetic presence that attracts quality men. When you cultivate this inner radiance, you become the kind of woman who doesn't just catch a man's eye, but captures his heart and earns his deepest respect. For they perfected the ancient art of listening. One of the most powerful secrets of history's most captivating women was their ability to listen in a way that made others feel truly heard and understood. In a world where everyone is eager to speak and few take time to truly listen, these women understood that the gift of genuine attention is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. They knew that men, despite popular belief, desperately want to be understood and appreciated for who they truly are, not just what they provide or accomplish. This kind of listening isn't passive or submissive, but actively engaging and deeply feminine in its power to nurture and heal. The art of transformative listening goes far beyond simply being quiet while someone else speaks. Ancient beauties were trained to listen with their whole body, maintaining gentle eye contact that showed interest without being invasive, leaning in slightly to demonstrate engagement, and responding with small vocal acknowledgments that encouraged continued sharing. They learned to ask questions that drew out deeper thoughts and feelings, not to pry or gossip, but to genuinely understand the person before them. They understood that when you truly listen to someone, you give them a gift that few people receive in their lifetime: the experience of being completely seen and accepted. Men who experience this kind of listening from a woman often describe feeling more masculine, more valued, and more understood than they have ever felt before. It's a power that creates devotion and respect simultaneously, making you not just desired but treasured. 5. They maintained impeccable personal standards without apology. Throughout history, the most respected and desired women were those who knew their worth and maintained high standards for themselves and those they allowed into their lives. These weren't arbitrary rules or impossible expectations, but clear boundaries based on self-respect and wisdom about human nature. They understood that when you maintain high standards, you naturally attract higher quality people, while those who would waste your time or treat you poorly eliminate themselves from consideration. This wasn't about being difficult or demanding, but about having enough self-respect to require respectful treatment from others. Men are naturally drawn to women who value themselves highly because it signals that she is worth pursuing, worth working for, worth treating well. When you have standards and maintain them consistently, you communicate that you see yourself as valuable and others will treat you accordingly. These ancient beauties understood that having standards meant more than just expecting expensive gifts or elaborate dates. Their standards encompassed how they were spoken to, how they were treated in public and private, the level of effort men put into winning their attention, and the character qualities they required in potential partners. They never lowered their standards out of loneliness or desperation because they knew that compromising on important values would only lead to relationships that diminished rather than enhanced their lives. They were willing to be alone rather than settle for treatment that was beneath their worth. And this willingness to walk away gave them tremendous power in all their relationships. Men quickly learned that to win and keep such a woman, they needed to consistently show up as their best selves. This created relationships built on mutual respect and genuine admiration rather than convenience or desperation. When you maintain high standards consistently and kindly, you don't just attract better treatment, you inspire others to become better versions of themselves. 6. They mastered the subtle art of feminine influence. The most powerful women throughout history understood that true influence comes not from force or manipulation, but from the gentle art of inspiring others to want to please and protect them. They knew that feminine power is not about competing with masculine energy, but about complementing and enhancing it in ways that make both parties stronger. These women could influence outcomes without ever appearing to push or demand, instead creating environments where men naturally wanted to step up and be their best selves. They understood that when you approach influence from a place of genuine care and wisdom, rather than selfishness or control, you can guide situations toward positive outcomes while allowing others to maintain their dignity and feel good about their choices. This subtle art requires deep emotional intelligence and genuine concern for others' well-being, not just your own desires. The practice of feminine influence begins with understanding what motivates people at their deepest level and appealing to their better nature rather than their fears or weaknesses. Ancient beauties learned to express their needs and desires in ways that made men feel powerful and capable rather than criticized or inadequate. Instead of demanding change, they would express faith in a man's ability to handle a situation well, creating space for him to rise to meet their expectations. They understood the power of gratitude and appreciation, knowing that men who feel valued and respected will move mountains for the women who make them feel that way. They also mastered the art of timing, knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. This wasn't manipulation because their intentions were genuinely loving and their methods were honest and respectful. When you learn to influence through inspiration rather than coercion, you create relationships where both parties feel empowered and respected, leading to deeper connection and lasting devotion. 7. They understood the power of selective availability. One of the most crucial secrets of history's most captivating women was their understanding that scarcity creates value, and availability must be earned rather than assumed. These women were not playing games or being manipulative, but they understood their own worth well enough to know that their time, attention, and presence were gifts to be cherished, not commodities to be taken for granted. They lived full, rich lives that didn't revolve around any one person, which made their attention and affection all the more precious when given. They knew that a man who has to work to win your time will value it far more than one who assumes he can have it whenever he wants. This principle created natural mystery and maintained attraction over time, preventing the kind of familiarity that can breed contempt in relationships. The art of selective availability requires having a life rich enough that you genuinely have choices about how to spend your time. Ancient beauties cultivated interests, friendships, creative pursuits, and personal goals that fulfilled them independently of romantic relationships. This wasn't about rejecting love or connection, but about approaching relationships from a position of abundance rather than need. When you have a full life, you naturally become more selective about who gets access to your time and energy, and this selectivity makes your attention more valuable. Men instinctively understand that a woman who is busy living a meaningful life is worth pursuing, while one who is always available might be taken for granted. The key is balance, being responsive and present when you do spend time together, but not being constantly accessible or dropping everything at a moment's notice. This creates a dynamic where your presence is appreciated rather than expected, and where the man in your life feels motivated to earn and keep your attention through consistent good treatment. 8. They practice the ancient art of emotional mastery. Throughout history, the most influential and beloved women were those who had learned to master their emotions rather than being mastered by them. This didn't mean suppressing feelings or pretending to be perfect, but developing the emotional intelligence to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively to challenging situations. They understood that emotional stability is one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess, creating a sense of safety and peace that draws others near. These women could remain calm in storms, offer wisdom during conflicts, and provide emotional anchor points for those around them. They knew that men are naturally drawn to women who can handle life's challenges with grace, who don't create unnecessary drama, and who can be trusted to remain steady when things get difficult. The development of emotional mastery begins with self-awareness and honest assessment of your emotional patterns and triggers. Ancient beauties practiced daily self-reflection, examining their reactions and responses to various situations and constantly working to improve their emotional responses. They understood that emotions are valuable information, but they don't have to dictate behavior. They learned techniques for managing anger, disappointment, fear, and other challenging emotions in ways that preserve their dignity and the dignity of others. They also cultivated positive emotions like gratitude, compassion, joy, and love through conscious practice and focus. This emotional mastery made them wonderful companions because they could navigate relationship challenges without creating additional chaos or drama. Men felt safe being vulnerable around these women because they knew their emotions would be met with understanding rather than judgment or instability. When you develop emotional mastery, you become someone others want to be around during both good times and difficult ones, creating the foundation for deep, lasting relationships built on trust and mutual respect. 9. They cultivated intellectual depth and curiosity. The most captivating women throughout history understood that beauty fades, but intelligence endures, and they invested heavily in developing their minds, as well as maintaining their physical appearance. They were voracious learners who read widely, engaged in meaningful conversations, stayed informed about the world around them, and constantly sought to expand their understanding of life and human nature. They knew that men might be initially attracted to physical beauty, but they stay for intellectual stimulation and emotional depth. These women could discuss philosophy, politics, art, literature, and life with equal ease, making them fascinating companions who never ran out of interesting things to say. They understood that a beautiful woman might catch a man's attention, but an intelligent woman captures his imagination and keeps him engaged for a lifetime. The cultivation of intellectual depth requires genuine curiosity about the world and commitment to lifelong learning that goes beyond formal education. Ancient beauties made it a practice to learn something new regularly, whether through reading, travel, conversation with wise people, or exploration of new ideas and perspectives. They understood that intelligence is not just about accumulating facts, but about developing the ability to think critically, ask thoughtful questions, and offer unique insights on various topics. They also knew the importance of being well-informed about current events and cultural happenings, so they could engage meaningfully in conversations about the world around them. This intellectual cultivation made them valuable advisors and trusted confidants to the men in their lives, creating relationships based on mutual respect for each other's minds, as well as attraction to each other's bodies. When you develop genuine intellectual curiosity and depth, you become the kind of woman a man wants to talk to, not just look at, creating the foundation for relationships that grow stronger rather than weaker over time. 10. They embodied authentic confidence rooted in self-knowledge. Perhaps the most powerful secret of history's most magnetic women was their possession of genuine confidence that came not from external validation or comparison to others, but from deep self-knowledge and acceptance of their own unique value. These women had spent time discovering who they truly were, what they valued, what they were good at, and what they had to offer the world. This self-awareness created unshakable confidence that didn't need constant reinforcement from others. They knew their strengths and acknowledged their weaknesses without shame, understanding that authenticity is far more attractive than perfection. Men are irresistibly drawn to women who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need constant reassurance or validation, and who bring their authentic selves to every interaction. This authentic confidence manifested in every aspect of how these women moved through the world. They didn't apologize for taking up space or having opinions, but they also didn't feel the need to prove themselves constantly or compete with others unnecessarily. They could celebrate other women's successes without feeling diminished, and they could handle their own failures without falling apart. They spoke their truth kindly but firmly, set boundaries without guilt, and pursued their goals without needing permission from others. This kind of confidence is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are so busy trying to be what they think others want them to be that encountering someone who is genuinely themselves is refreshing and attractive. Men feel drawn to women who know who they are because it suggests they will be genuine partners rather than projects to be managed. When you develop this kind of authentic confidence through self-knowledge and self-acceptance, you naturally attract people who appreciate your true self rather than those who are drawn to a false image you've created. These timeless principles work because they address the deepest human needs for understanding, appreciation, growth, and authentic connection. When you embody mysterious elegance, move with grace, radiate inner light, listen with your whole being, maintain high standards, influence through inspiration, practice selective availability, master your emotions, cultivate your mind, and develop authentic confidence, you become irresistible not just to men, but to life itself. You create relationships based on mutual respect and genuine admiration rather than neediness or manipulation. You inspire others to be their best selves while remaining true to your own authentic nature. Most importantly, you develop the kind of timeless beauty that only grows more attractive with age, creating a life filled with love, respect, and genuine fulfillment. By integrating these ancient wisdom principles into your modern life, you join the ranks of women throughout history who have understood the true secrets of feminine power and used them to create extraordinary relationships and meaningful lives. Remember, you have within you right now everything you need to become the kind of woman who commands both respect and desire. It's simply a matter of awakening and developing these timeless qualities that have captivated hearts and minds for thousands of years.